This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, teaching influencers and bloggers how to become successful entrepreneurs. This is episode 121 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into the topic of social media influencers. This is going to be a complete guide. I'm going to answer some of the top questions that I see people asking, and we're going to get into a little bit about pricing as far as what you should be charging if you are a social media influencer and the possibility of how much money you can actually make. So before we dive into that, I wanted to actually invite you guys, if you haven't already participated, or even if you have participated in the past, I would love for you to jump on board and get involved in Pitch Perfect Live. Pitch Perfect Live is a free 5-day training that I do where I'm going to actually walk you through who to reach out to and what to say when you actually do in order to land a sponsored campaign or a sponsored post on Instagram. It can be used on social media or also on your website. So if you haven't already participated in that, or even if you have, participate in it again. Because what we find is that even if you went through the training 6 months ago, a year ago, you're probably at a different place in your business. Your business has expanded. You've probably maybe even niched down a bit more. So there's a lot of material that's covered in this free 5-day training that will walk you through how to really hone in on what it is that you do so that you can articulate it better to a brand when the time comes to work on a sponsored campaign. To sign up for that, you can go to jennymelrose.com/Pitch Perfect Live. It's all one word. It is linked in the show notes though, so you can always hop over and sign up there as well. All right, you guys, let's dive into talking about social media influencers. I feel like there's more and more information out there, a lot of people questioning it, a lot of people calling themselves social media influencers and hopping on the bandwagon. So the first question that I wanted to answer is, how do you become a social media influencer? And I think that this is a question that you may be asking yourself if you already have a blog or if you just even have an Instagram account. Can you be considered a social media influencer with just that? And to me, and this of course can vary based on who you're talking to, but to me, an influencer is someone that is going to influence an audience in order to do something, whether it is to try a new recipe or to create a new home decor project or to budget for their family better. Whichever it might be, a social media influencer, though, is going to push or sway people in order to do something that they're talking about. It's funny because I recently had a conversation with my 9-year-old, and one of her spelling words was influence. And she said to me, she was very proud of herself. She said to me in the car, "Oh, Mom, you're never going to believe it. Influence is one of my spelling words." And I spelled it right, and then I had to use it in a sentence. And I said, "My mom is an influence entrepreneur." And of course, the former English teacher in me went back and kind of cringed because, of course, we're not an influence entrepreneur, we're an influencer entrepreneur. So I had to explain the difference to her between it being a noun and a verb. But the point is that she, even with that being said, didn't entirely understand what the word influence meant, which of course was the purpose of her writing that sentence. So we talked about the idea that if her friend suggests something for her to get for her birthday or to want to wear to school or a bracelet or the latest toy or contraption, whatever comes out for Christmas, that's that friend having influence and kind of recommending her to want something that her friend wants. And that's exactly what a social media influencer does. The social media influencer is speaking and engaging with their audience and has created a relationship with their audience where that audience trusts that person and is going to want to try the things that that social media influencer is recommending. And a lot of times we will see this, whether it is a fashion blogger or a beauty Instagram person that's doing tutorials, whoever it might be, it can be across all different niches. The very first thing you need to do, though, if you are trying to make yourself a social media influencer, this is something that you are interested in, or you have a blog and you want to be able to call it a business. The influencer entrepreneur part, of course, is that business aspect where you're actually making money from this. In order to do that, you oftentimes need to niche down and know who it is that you're talking to. You need to know your avatar. So we're going to link to it in this episode, but we'll link back to the episode where we talked about how to figure out your avatar, because it's such an important piece of being able to put content out there and knowing who that content is for. Now, when I say niching down, I'm saying you can't talk about everything under the sun. And years ago, when I first started blogging 9 years ago, you could talk, people blogged and they would put out what they ate for lunch and then what they had for dinner and what they did after dinner if they went for a walk with their husband or whatever it might be. That day and age is long past. If you want to see page views on your blog, or if you want to see engagement on Instagram, you need to be consistent in what you're talking about. So you can't jump from topic to topic. You can't come onto Instagram and talk to me about crocheting and then tomorrow talk to me about fitness and then talk to me about the keto diet and then talk to me about your Easter decor. That's not putting it all underneath an umbrella. And I think that that's a great way to look at it. Everything that you talk about should fall underneath that umbrella, and it should encompass everything. So a lot of people will think, oh, okay, well, I can put it all under a DIY home decor kind of umbrella. It needs to be more specific than that. What is it with your DIY home decor that you are starting to do with it? Are you showing people how to make their homes more simple? Or are you trying to make them how to share to make their home more kid-friendly? Or are you doing it on a budget? Being more specific so they know exactly what they're going to get when they come to you is going to be instrumental in becoming a social media influencer. You cannot just talk about whatever it is that you want to if you don't have that umbrella encompassing it all. There has to be a reason that you're creating that content. And again, that's why knowing your avatar is so important, because that avatar is going to know what to expect and you're going to create that content specifically for that person. So we'll make sure to link to that again in the show notes so that you can go back after this episode and listen to the avatar episode. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about this whole idea of becoming a social media influencer and what it would actually need to entail, what we then want to talk about is how do you identify the top social media influencers? And a lot of people will say to me, oh, well, that's an obvious answer. You want to go and find whoever has 1 million followers. And that's actually not true. Because, like I said, I'm a dinosaur of a blogger. I've been blogging for 9 years. And many of us grew up with the social media platforms. For example, Pinterest came out 9 years ago. Instagram came out even less than that. So because of that, we started on the platform when it was first created. Now, if we haven't adjusted with the algorithms and the way that the platform has changed, and maybe we grew tremendously in the beginning, then the followers that we have are likely not engaging with us. So a top social media influencer is going to be someone that has an audience that engages with them, are creating comments, are sharing their content. And this is most noticeable on Instagram. Right now, we've talked, you hear in the blogging world, you hear amongst social media influencers, that of course, Facebook, it's very difficult to get your content seen. You can have 1 million followers on your Facebook page, but you're not going to see much traffic coming over to your site, at least not the way that you used to, for sure. So if you were to take a look at someone's Instagram account, that's where you can see a lot more engagement, whether it's in the comments Or even better yet, you can often see it in the types of content they're sharing in Instagram stories. We have multiple episodes on increasing your engagement on Instagram stories. So do make sure that if you're binge listening, going traveling this summer and you're listening back to this episode, or even for the spring, make sure that you go through and consume as much content as you possibly can about Instagram stories. Because again, the piece that we need to understand is that a lot of influencers that have been around for a long time may not be using the platform the way that it has been adjusted. And if they're not changing with the times, those are not the influencers that are top influencers, because they're not getting the total engagement. Top ones are the ones where you can see that others are sharing their content in their Instagram stories. So if you watch their Instagram stories, you'll see that they're actually sharing others who have shared them, who have tagged them in a post. Those are the influencers. Those are the social media influencers that are the top of the line, is when you can tell that they're getting tagged in other people's stories, whether they're tagging them because they made a recipe, or they're tagging them because of home decor, or they're tagging them because they're taking a mom break. I have actually a client that on Instagram is at Mom Break, and her audience will tag her when they take their own mom break. And she then will reshare it in her stories. You can see all of the engagement that she is getting. She has tons of people talking about her Instagram account, her idea of being on a mom break. That's engagement. That's a top influencer. Her numbers may not be 400,000, but her following is going to continue to increase, because the audience members that are sharing her content in their stories or are tagging her in their stories, their audience that are watching them, their friends, their family that are not bloggers or not social media influencers, are now going to go, well, why is she tagging this mom break person? And now they're going to hop over to that Instagram account and see this social media influencer and understand the movement that she has created with her Instagram account. That is a social media influencer. A top social media influencer is one that can create a movement behind the content they're creating, can inspire you to want to be a part of their community. They are able to create that tribe and that community. They may use certain hashtags, or they may tag that certain account. So that is honestly, like, if you are looking to continue to grow your own account, to be able to make more money, to be able to work with more brands, or just to have more social media influence overall, if you're going to emulate yourself by modeling yourself after other accounts, look for the accounts that are getting the engagement. And right now, the place to look is definitely on Instagram, and I would highly recommend going to Instagram stories. Because what we're actually seeing is that if people are engaging on your Instagram stories, they not only are going to be engaging on Instagram stories, but also on the feed. So if you can find them in Instagram stories and they're consistently creating content there, it's likely that if you go to their feed and you look at their posts, they're still getting engagement on their posts in their feed as well. Because they're training their audience, they're getting them involved, they're using the platform the way it is designed to be used now. They are
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
changing with the times. They're not stuck in the ways of old. And often that isn't necessarily a slight. I need to make sure that that is totally clear, especially to my bloggers that have been dinosaurs as long as I have. If you are you may have that huge following, but brands now, especially if you're looking to make money, which is the next piece of what we're going to talk about as a social media influencer, the brands care about the engagement. They don't care about that following number as much as they used to. Followers used to be, the algorithm didn't affect the follower number as much as it does now. You were shown to all of your followers, whereas now you're not. And that's where the engagement is coming into play. The more engagement you get, the more people it gets shown to. That's how the algorithms are working. So the next question that often comes up when it comes to social media influencers is how much do social media influencers actually make? And this is really it can fluctuate greatly. But what I can tell you is that there's multiple ways that social media influencers can make money. One of these ways, which I am very well known for, is to work on sponsored campaigns with brands. And that is actually the training that I am doing starting next week. Pitch Perfect Live, I actually teach you how to reach out to brands and what to say when you do in order to work on sponsored campaigns. So that is a piece of often how you can make money. Now, as a social media influencer, if you're just on, let's say, Instagram, and Instagram goes away tomorrow, your entire platform is gone. You are no longer any form of influence because the content that you created is gone. So I would highly recommend that if you are creating your content on someone else's platform, which is what Instagram is, find a way in order to download those pictures, in order to download that video content. Make sure that you are saving it so that you can then always turn around and use it moving forward. I would highly recommend also having a website. Maybe you're not going to be as consistent there because you're able to use Instagram or use Facebook or wherever it might be in order to engage with your audience, but you still are going to want something that you own. And this also goes often hand in hand with continuing to grow your email list. Don't think that just because you have a website that you now have solved your problem. You still need to have email. You need to be able to contact people and to be able to have that engagement that social media did allow you. But with that being said, so you can do sponsored campaigns. You can, if you have a website, you can also make money from your ads. So obviously, anytime someone comes to your site, if you're with an ad network or you're using Google AdSense, which takes a really long time and a lot of page views to qualify, I would highly recommend that if you are at the 25,000 cut that Mediavine uses in order to get accepted into their program, that you jump into Mediavine because that's what they do. That's their zone of genius. Don't try to figure it out yourself and whatever else comes along with it. Believe me, I've been down that rabbit hole. It is very scary. So using a network like Mediavine or AdThrive, if you are using AdThrive as a larger blogger, can also bring you money through page views and through your ads. You can also make an income from affiliate advertising, which you can often see fashion bloggers will talk about certain outfits and they'll link to it in their stories, and then you'll have the swipe up feature in order, or they'll say DM me for the link in order to get that outfit. I will say this, that if you are a Instagram influencer and you are using affiliate links, you still need to disclose, which I often do not see many people doing. Anytime you are making any sort of money off of something, or there's the potential for money, you need to disclose. So if you're doing an Instagram story, you need to have hashtag ad, you need to say that you are an affiliate. Something needs to be said that you can make you will make a cut from whatever they purchase. So make sure that you are disclosing. But affiliate advertising is another way in which a social media influencer can make money. A social media influencer can also make money from their own product or service. If that social media influencer happens to be a vegan food blogger and then is offering meal plans or is offering a course, whatever it might be, that's their own products. They could also do services where maybe they're going to work one-on-one with people. So as a social media influencer, the larger the ability you have in order to diversify your income so that you're not relying on just ads or just sponsored posts, but the ability to diversify is going to help you. So, of course, that also comes into play when we are talking about how much money can be made. There are some, it is often, the money that you can make is often tied to your engagement. Now, notice I didn't say your followers. It's tied to your engagement, because if you have 500 followers and those 500 followers that you have are going to click on everything and do everything that you ask them to do as far as buying an affiliate product or buying one of your services, then those 500 followers are more valuable than 5 million followers where only 100 engage. You really need to start thinking about it that way. Stop worrying about the number of followers that you have and start talking to the people that you actually do have, and trying to get them to engage with you and understanding why they're there. There has to be a reason that they're following along with you. Figure out how you can become better and better understanding of what it is that they are coming to you for. What problems are you solving for them? It always goes back to that problem. I think a lot of people often miss that piece, is that they don't feel like they're solving a problem, they're just putting out content. It's always knowing what problem you're solving for your avatar. Now, with that, you can also, of course, with your engagement, it's going to determine how much you can possibly get for an affiliate, because the more eyeballs, the more engaged people are likely to click, is the more money that you can possibly make, as well as you're more likely to be able to drive traffic to your page or to your website if you are driving page views and working with ads. The same can be said for working with brands on sponsored campaigns. Your engagement is so important. Where brands are not going to care, they still want to know your follower numbers. I'm not going to tell you that they don't mean anything, but they're more concerned with your engagement and being able to say to them, well, I have 500 followers on Instagram, and on my Instagram stories, I get 400 impressions. And then out of that engagement, maybe I'm seeing a 10% click rate, which is awesome. So knowing your data, being able to articulate what it is that you're doing and who your audience is and how they continue to engage with you is going to be really important as far as pricing. Now, as far as pricing when it comes to working on sponsored campaigns, which is often seen on Instagram, you can normally price for every 10,000 followers that you have, you can charge $100 for a post in the feed. So if you have 10,000 followers, you can charge $100. If you have 5,000 followers, you can charge $50. And that's just for a post in the feed. Now, if you were to do something in stories and you have a lot of engagement, you probably could, I teach that you're able to charge similarly. So that if you had 10,000 followers, you did a series of 5 stories, you could charge $500 for it. As long as, and I'm going to preface this, as long as you can show that there is actual engagement, because you need to be able to show the brand that you are working with their ROI or return on investment. And of course, we always talk about with sponsored campaigns, and again, if you are interested in learning more about sponsored campaigns, definitely hop on to that 5-day free training, Pitch Perfect Live. But we always talk about that it's important to know the businesses, the brand's KPIs or key performance indicators. Because if the brand is looking to grow their Instagram following, it's very different than if the brand is just looking to expand their audience's awareness of a new product. Because it's harder to track awareness compared to tracking the number of Instagram followers that maybe they increase through a campaign. So the brand has to know what their KPIs are in order for you to determine that the ROI that you are giving that brand. But again, we go into greater depth with this inside Pitch Perfect Live, the 5-day free training. And you can sign up again for that at jennymelrose.com/Pitch Perfect Live. So I am hoping that you have found this complete guide on all the information about social media influencers, because we are in an area where social media influencers are really taking and able to catapult their businesses and their careers forward. You're going to want to listen to the next episode if you're curious what I mean by careers, because I am an avid American Idol watcher, and I've been noticing something about some of the contestants and how they're using their social media influence. But make sure you listen in next week to next week's episode about the things that I'm noticing that they're doing. And I am actually going to make a prediction on who I think may win. All right, you guys, I appreciate you all so much for listening in. I love seeing where, how, when you are listening to the podcast. So if you would take a screenshot and then upload it to your Instagram stories and tag me at Jenny_Melrose. You are an influencer entrepreneur when you are using your influence to push other people in order to purchase a product or service and making money from it. So many times we'll hear people talk about blogging. You are an influencer when you're a blogger, and you become an entrepreneur when you start making money for it. So I want to see you guys using that. Show me when you are being an influencer entrepreneur. Tag me in your Instagram stories if you're out on a campaign, if you're working on a recipe that is sponsored, if you are taking one of my courses in order to increase your Pinterest traffic, whatever it might be. Tag me and share on your Instagram stories. All right, guys, until next time, I will see you all then.